Welcome to Entrepreneurship at Rowan, an official production of the award-winning Rowan Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We cover the entrepreneurial pulse of Rowan students, faculty, and alumni. Prepare to be Rowan proud.
Hello, Rowan University. My name is Aidan Tamazian, and I'm your host for Season 4 of the Entrepreneurship at Rowan podcast. As you know, this season is focused on Rowan's Entrepreneurship Advisory Council, and today we are lucky to have Miss Amber Deimler with us. Amber is the Vice President of Sales at Demountable Concepts, a company right here in Glassboro that manufactures unique products for the shipping industry. Amber, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Aidan. I'm really excited to be here. I think we have a lot of great things to talk about.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get started with some easy questions in our lightning round here, just so we get warmed up and ready to go. First up, do you have a favorite quote or saying?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. I'm a big believer in quotes and learning things from people before us. One of my favorites is, you have to have an enthusiasm for life. You have to have a dream, a goal, and you have to be willing to work for it. That came from Jim Valvano, who is a career basketball coach that also had a really encouraging battle with cancer. And he kind of defied the odds in his personal life and in his coaching life. So I think he's a good guy to learn from.
That is a great saying. Is he famous for anything else other than coaching? Has he written any books or things that we could check out?
So there's an ESPY speech that he did, if you're familiar with ESPN, and he's really famous for it because he talked a lot about his view on life post getting kind of his diagnosis of cancer, which was a fatal diagnosis. And it just is really interesting seeing his introspection that it moved him to. So it's very famous, very popular. Definitely recommend checking it out. The whole speech is fantastic.
What's the better holiday movie, Elf or Home Alone?
This is a great question. So I'm a Home Alone era kid, so I have to say Home Alone. Just his creativity and survival was just epic. But Elf is also a great movie. Will Ferrell's unmatched. He's hysterical.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was just having this debate in my engineering class yesterday, and most of us said Elf, but, Home Alone, got to respect it. It's a classic. Great,
it is a classic.
Movie.
You're right.
Yep. All right. Do you have a favorite podcast or YouTube channel?
Yeah, I love How I Built This with Guy Raz, which is a pretty popular entrepreneurship podcast. Just learning about some of the brands that we use and interact with every day and their story. Really love it. Really love that one.
I'm a little bummed you didn't say this podcast.
This is my new favorite podcast after this, for sure.
No, How I Built This is very interesting. All the different stories are amazing. My first personal favorite right now is Huberman Labs.
Great.
Love everything that Andrew Huberman talks about. It's all very insightful, and I would never learn about it otherwise. So what's your favorite way to relax after a long week?
I love spending time with my kids. So I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're in really fun ages now where they're kind of developing their own opinions and personalities, and they're playing sports. So it's really fun. So it's a nice break from, the business week that we have, just to spend some time with my kids and watch them grow and develop into little human beings.
That's
really
awesome.
Cool.
Definitely. So I usually think that it's very important to hear about the educational background of successful individuals, as it often varies quite tremendously from person to person, which I think is really interesting. So what did you study in college, and what made you want to pursue that field?
Yeah, so my degree is a business degree from the University of Delaware with a concentration in marketing. So I went to the University of Delaware not only for my degree, but also I played Division I field hockey there. So I was an athlete. I just really loved all that the business school had to offer, and they had a really good name just in their academic history. So it was really interesting for me. And I think that initially I thought maybe I'd be doing something like at an ad agency, right? We always think marketing, advertising. It was kind of this big boom of the advertising era. But what I came to find out is marketing really is the analytics that drive a lot of advertising and decisions made by companies. So it was a really great, well-rounded degree. I got a little bit of management, finance, accounting, but also got a little bit of a concentration in what I was really passionate about, which was marketing.
That's great. And so what was it like balancing being a D1 athlete and a full-time college student?
It was a challenge for sure. But I always say that the things that I carried with me in my business career, a lot of those lessons came from being an athlete, just growing up being an athlete, and the things I've learned from my teammates and being a part of a team and a part of a system. I've really carried those lessons with me. So it was well worth all of the difficulty sometimes in balancing the two, because it is hard. You have a very demanding schedule as a Division I athlete. So making sure that you're still spending the amount of time that you should on your academics is really difficult at times, but I wouldn't change a thing. It was definitely one of the best experiences of my life.
And I'm sure you learned exceptional time management with all that going on. I can relate, with my startup and the other things I'm working on. It's tough, but it really adds to your skill set overall, just trying to balance everything.
It does, because your life ultimately will be a game of time management. So it's good to learn that at a young age and kind of build the foundation off of that.
So let's start moving into your professional experience. What was the first role you had after college?
Yeah, so I went to work for a company called American Home Patient. So they are a medical device company focusing in home respiratory products primarily. I went initially and joined on as a customer service representative because there was no outside sales positions available. And I'm one that always looks at something like, I've got to start somewhere, right? And then prove myself that I'm worthy of the opportunity and learn what I can from that so that I can carry that into being successful as an account executive. And about 6 months in, I got lucky and someone was moving on with their career and a position opened up. So I went into my general manager and I said, I would love to do this or have a shot at this position, which I was well underage comparative to my equivalents in the sales roles, but she definitely believed in me, which I thank her for, and gave me an opportunity with an account. And if I could grow that account, then I could take over the territory. So the rest, as they sometimes say, is history. But I spent about 5 years with that company and learned just so much because it's a sales role, but you're helping people. It's medical, right? So there's people that need your help or are going through a battle of their own. So you get to be a little small piece of that. So I learned from the people and then obviously gained a tremendous amount of experience in outside sales.
That's amazing. Now, with the product you were selling, it sounds like it's fairly technical, maybe somewhat complicated. What was it like trying to understand the software and the platform you were selling, as well as then trying to sell it to someone else? How did that look for you?
Yeah, so our products were like home oxygen, things like that. So it wasn't as much of the software sales, but you are right, it is technical. You have to know a lot of things about how a patient might qualify for the equipment, which really goes back to some tests and things that a doctor or physician are doing. So there is a lot of studying and research required just to be able to have really good business acumen conversations with physicians. These are people that have gone to school for a significant amount of time in their specialized field. So in order for them to listen to you and to hear you, you definitely have to work and spend time educating yourself on what would qualify a patient, how do your products benefit a patient, so that you can get their ear and have a great conversation about why your company is the best for those products. So a lot of time spent studying for sure.
I can imagine. So it sounds like you were working more so with healthcare providers than patients themselves.
Exactly. There were some situations where you work directly with the patient, but a lot of times it was the healthcare provider themselves. Yeah.
Got it. All right. And now, so your second role was with enterprise, which it's quite a different field, to be honest, automotive versus healthcare. And your role was in a much more managerial, than in your first job. What made you want to make this switch, and what was that transition like?
Yeah, that's a great question, because by all intents and purposes, a lot of people that had my role in the medical device company would stay there for a very long time because it was a great company, it was a great position. And I think for me, one of the big draws was that I knew that I liked leading a team, right? I've been a college athlete. I've been an athlete my whole life, and I really respect some of the leaders that I've gotten to work and play under. So it was a passion of mine, and I saw a really big opportunity. I had some friends working at Enterprise. Their management training program is really unmatched. I can't say enough about it. So I saw a little bit of a gap in me being well-rounded in the sense that I didn't have a lot of management experience outside of the sneaker store. Right. So I saw it as a really big opportunity to start from the bottom. A lot of people thought I was crazy, but start from the bottom and really work my way up in an organization that really promoted that and really celebrated that, working from the ground up and understanding the business and the people that you were managing. So I made that jump. I had a lot of friends that were really successful there. I had a lot of ex-college athlete friends. So I saw how they were utilizing the skill set synergistically that you have as an athlete with what you do as a manager. And I really liked how they were combining the two. So I had a really good opportunity to get my foot in the door there and just really work from the ground up. I started like at a branch washing and vacuuming cars for customers and renting them cars. And it led just to this amazing career that I had with them over the next 5 years. So
that's
grateful
incredible.
for that.
That's incredible. What did that managerial training program look like? What sort of things did they teach you and help you to get better at?
Yeah, I think the key to it was that they gave you a real understanding of how your branch could be successful in the space that we were in. So helping you understand the profits and the losses and tying everyone to those results. And customer service was a major focus. We were all tied to our customer service results. So really teaching us and coaching us on what are the measurables and metrics to being successful, I think was a really key piece in how you then trained the people that you were managing, because you were training them with a system, you were training them with a proven process, and you're helping them understand how they tied into the results. I think that just goes a long way when you're trying to get buy-in from people that you're managing. And you had people, like I was managing people that I could say to them, like, yes, I vacuumed cars. Yes, I washed cars. So there was a real camaraderie built there that helped for a really mutual respect when managing. So I learned a lot of that from Enterprise for sure.
That's great. And it really sounds like you leaned into that leadership by service role where, you can relate to the people that you're managing. And I think that's one of the most admirable qualities of a good leader. Now, this question is more about the job itself and sort of what sort of things you were looking at. Most of us have rented a car at some point, but we wouldn't think about all the different details and data points that you might collect. Are you able to talk to us about what are some of those most important indicators and things that you look at in your role there?
Yeah, what I think is the most interesting is that the day-to-day rental definitely supports keeping the lights on and the expansion of the business. But the real meat of how Enterprise's rental program is successful is that they have these great contracts with all of the major manufacturers, Ford, GM, whoever it might be, where they get a really decreased price for those vehicles. So they buy them low, they rent them for utilization and continuing to kind of pay the bills on those cars, for lack of better terms. But then the real money is made when they flip those cars. So they have different channels of sale to where they're able to return sometimes more money than they paid for the vehicles once they really dial into the sweet spot of each vehicle, make, model, and when they sell it. So that was very interesting to me. So what happens on the rental side of things is a very service-based industry, but the real money and the real turn comes from how they buy and sell vehicles. They're a very large buyer and seller of vehicles in our country and in all the countries where they've kind of acquired car rental companies. So I think that's probably the most interesting thing I learned in my time there.
That's amazing. And that's almost something you would never even think of, but wow, that's a really great insight. I'm really glad you're able to share that. So your next role with Enterprise was back on the sales side, this time as Enterprise's truck rental division. How did this position differ from the one you had back at Home Patient and also from your earlier position at Enterprise?
So this position was a new position to Enterprise. So they were just kind of developing their truck rental division, and they didn't have anyone dedicated to outside sales. It was kind of a part of the business rental team. So I got very familiar with the division. I really saw a ton of upward opportunity in the truck division because it was new and there was such a high demand for it. So I was kind of tapped on the shoulder by some of my colleagues to say, hey, you might want to evaluate this as an opportunity for you. And I did like that it kind of combined two things. It took my management and leadership experience I learned in the branches at the branch level and all the company culture that I really fell in love with there. And it allowed me to kind of blaze my own trail. There was no model for this. It was me and about two other people in the country that were starting this position. And just having the ties to the business rental team and being able to go out and speak to customers again was a really cool thing, and have the opportunity to introduce them to something that they maybe didn't formerly know about, like, oh, Enterprise rents trucks. I had no idea. Right, yeah. I rented an airport from you last week, but I didn't know that you rented trucks. So it was a really pioneering role, and I really loved that about it. And it related to Enterprise or American Home Patient rather, because I was back out in front of the clients and the customers, and I was proactively seeking them and hunting them again, which I do love. But then I also got to help be a partner to the branches and the branch staff and kind of manage that sales process for them, and we could support one another because their goal was to rent as most amount of trucks that they could a day. So I got to kind of fit back into that piece and be a teammate with them as well. So it was a really unique kind of hybrid role for me.
That's awesome. It honestly sounds like you were pretty much starting your own startup within Enterprise.
I always talk about how passionate I am about entrepreneurship and how often it gets overlooked in someone's ability to maybe not be an entrepreneur in the moment, but be an entrepreneur in the position that you've been given. I'm very passionate about it, and that would be a really great example of that, just being able to kind of build your own business within a large, successful corporation.
That's amazing. So then your final role with Enterprise was as an account executive, and by this point you'd already been in the automotive retail industry for a few years. What did you like most about this space, and what made you want to continue to pursue positions related to it?
Yeah, so I flipped to the fleet management side of things at this point in my career with them. And I was, again, hunting larger fleets of vehicles, whether it was pharmaceutical fleet, could have been larger heavy duty vehicles for a construction company. And speaking with their management and their kind of vehicle team about how they could do it and leverage kind of what enterprise is already having with the buy low, sell high model, and have that return some money and revenue into their business. So a lot of times a fleet is one of the biggest expenses, if not the biggest, that a company is going to have. And they're not necessarily cycling them to get a return from the vehicles the way that they could be. So it's almost like taking that model at enterprise and applying it to someone's personal business. So I really liked the ability to kind of coach companies and, again, teach them something that maybe they weren't thinking about how they can make their fleet kind of work for them. So that was a really fun role. And again, in this automotive industry and this transportation industry, it really feels a lot of times like there's endless possibilities. It's an integral part of our country and most countries being able to sustain themselves. And unfortunately, we kind of learned the negative side of the infrastructure during COVID and things like that, seeing certain portions shut down and how negatively impactful it was. So being able to see just how new innovation and evolution can just continue to take this to the next level in transportation, I'm really passionate about that. And I think there's just endless possibilities for people in this space. So that's what kind of kept me hanging on through my career at Enterprise and just in my career here now at Demountable Concepts, just continuing forward with that passion for transportation.
Let's make the transition back to your career. So eventually you moved on to Demountable Concepts. First, can you tell us a little bit more about what DCI does and also what made you want to move to a company that is quite different from Enterprise?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. So I actually met Rustin Casway, the founder of Demountable Concepts, when I was making a sales call for Enterprise. So I met him. We're having a good conversation about how maybe he could rent trucks for some of his fleet customers and help kind of loosen up the requirement on his team to get things done in a really crunch time frame. And we just really connected. We connected from a core value standpoint. It was so admirable what he did with his business and his entrepreneurship and just his visionary qualities. But at the time, there was really no opportunity for us to work together just because he had a relatively smaller sales team and he was managing them himself. But we always knew we'd kind of end up back with one another in some capacity. So meeting him, I was just inspired by his entrepreneurial ideas for the transportation and shipping industry. And what he's built from an engineered commercial vehicle solution space is just really impressive. And it's something that motivates me and inspires me every day. But primarily, we have 3 divisions in that commercial vehicle solutions space, one of which is Demountable Concepts. So it's essentially taking the technology that they've used in Europe since about the 50s, containers on a box truck, and being able to swap containers from chassis to chassis, making it a much more efficient vehicle. So that's one of our spaces. We also manufacture glass racks. If you've ever seen a vehicle riding down the road for shower doors or windows, like an aluminum structure they put on the side of vans and pickup trucks, we manufacture those as well. We're one of about 4 companies in the United States that do that, which is really exciting. And then we have a regional fleet repair business in DCI Fleet. So we're all in that transportation space, and they kind of serve one another in strange crossover ways you might not think. But that's what we do. And we have a sales team now of about 8 people that sell in North America. So the US, Canada, Mexico, and a little bit of South America to some degree. So we're really busy out of this hub here in New Jersey. It's really exciting stuff. But just the passion that Rustin has for this business is what really inspired me to join the team and be a part of it and be able to learn from him.
Definitely. And what are some of the biggest companies that you would target with your product at DCI?
As far as the Demountable Concept space, we work really well in certain industries: furniture, liquor and beverage distribution, look at building material supply, party and event rental. And the reason that it works well in that space is because typically it takes a long time for them to load trucks. And oftentimes they have long windshield time to get out to the market that they're actually delivering to, because they use like regionalized distribution centers where they're large, but maybe someone has to drive 2 hours to get to their first customer. So the box truck, a 26-foot box truck, is traditionally the most inefficient vehicle that someone can have on the road. So we're just trying to improve the efficiency using kind of an Americanized version of what they've been doing in Europe since the 50s. And as far as the glass space goes, it's going to be your local window, door manufacturers and installers. There's oftentimes a glass company or two in each town that you pass through. So there's quite a bit of opportunity throughout the country, as well as larger glass fabricators who actually make the glass and then gets cut down for windows and doors and things. And the fleet repair space is really anybody with a fleet of 10 or more vehicles that could potentially need repair or refurbishment work done. And that's a bit more regional. So that's going to be mid to South Jersey, a little bit North Jersey, south to central PA, and then all of the state of Delaware. So we kind of keep that a little bit more regional, just based on our reach and our ability to get to the clients themselves.
And now I have to ask, everyone's heard the phrase, sell me this pen. Wolf of Wall Street, right? It's iconic.
Yep.
How relevant is it to be able to sell anything?
I think that model and that example is really important because it focuses around what are the important skills to have as a salesperson. It's thinking on your feet. It's sometimes not knowing the product that you're going to be asked to sold and being able to perform when under pressure. It's about thinking of a benefit to a client, and if there is no benefit, it's creating the benefit, right? It's finding a way to create a need where there might not be a need, or fitting your product into a need or a challenge they haven't even uncovered. So I think it's important because it highlights, that example highlights what's required to be a really successful salesperson. But that being said, these are not skills that can't be built. It's like practice. I think of it as an athlete. You have to practice your pitch. You've got to practice overcoming objections. These aren't things that some people have a natural inclination to them, but the best salespeople work at it and work at it and work at it until it's just rolling off their tongue. It's second nature. That's a really important thing to remember too, because some people think that they have a barrier to entering sales because they're just naturally not the kind of person who can think on their feet. That can be learned. That can be coached and taught. And I think if you have a basic skill set of relationship building, any of those things can be taught and practiced and learned.
And so when it comes to overcoming this barrier, would you say the best way to work at it is to just talk to clients, or would you practice with people that maybe aren't stakeholders in a deal or something related to your business and company?
I think putting yourself in rooms where you're really uncomfortable is the best way to learn. And that could be at an event at the university where maybe you're like, oh my gosh, all these people run successful businesses. Put yourself in that room and build relationships with those people for a lot of reasons, but for the main reason that you're going to get used to overcoming those nerves that come with maybe feeling like, oh, I don't have equal business stature with this person yet. Because trust me, any position of sales, you're going to be put in situations where you are presenting yourself as the expert, but you know the other person probably knows more about their own business than you do. So it's important to put yourself in those rooms where you're massively uncomfortable, because you're going to grow in those spaces. And I think grabbing your friends, practicing pitches on friends, and practicing overcoming objections, and just finding opportunities to build relationships in your personal life, I think then kind of makes it second nature in your business life. And it helps you become a better relationship builder. If you're doing it kind of at every juncture and opportunity you have, it does become second nature. And it's the foundation of sales, is relationship building. And once you kind of master that, you become good at that. You become a great listener, which you can do in your personal life. You really become an excellent salesperson who has an opportunity to grow different skills once you've kind of mastered the foundation.
But now you've also kind of taken on this role of a mentor as an EAC member. You've contributed invaluable guidance and suggestions to our entrepreneurship program, and you've also volunteered countless hours of your time to judge events and just be around the university and the program. So how did you first get involved with the EAC?
Our initial introduction to the EAC was really through the business college, having students, groups of students, and at times I believe it was the CEO club, do tours of our business. So when I first got to Demountable Concepts, there was groups of Rowan students coming in, and I kind of just naturally took over, giving them the background on our company, doing tours of our company. And I really just thought everything that was happening over here was so interesting and so innovative. And then I got the opportunity to meet Dr. Ligori on one of those visits, and him and I just connected. And through that, he just provided me, and I was grateful. He was letting me know about opportunities that were happening over here, because as much as, Rowan feels that they've gained from my help and, my hours, I've gained just as much, if not more, just in fulfillment and being able to help and see people grow from freshmen now to seniors and having these successful businesses. It's inspiring for me. So as much as I know it's so appreciated that there's volunteer hours. I appreciate it because it really is inspiring. So once Dr. LaGroy and I linked up, there were some competitions that I judged, and I made it through COVID with all the virtual judging and all the virtual meetings, and just love what happened in that time with the Entrepreneurship College just getting its own accreditation and just so many exciting things. I feel like I was able to be a bystander and be a part of something so special just in the last 5 years that I've been a part of things. And we've continued on with the visits to Demountable Concepts. And I love the things I'm able to do with the EAC and the judging and just the meeting the students and hearing their inspiring ideas has been just so rewarding for me. So I'm as grateful, I think, if not more grateful than the other side of the table, if that makes sense.
But as we wrap up here, I have one final question for you. What is one piece of advice you would give to students and aspiring entrepreneurs hoping to succeed in their careers?
I think that's a really loaded question because obviously, I have my own experience, but if there's some things that I could share, is just that your journey is yours, right? So comparison can be the thief of joy. So everybody's going to be moving along at their own pace. And it doesn't mean that someone's further along than another person because maybe everybody didn't start at the same place. But definitely don't compare yourself to others. Celebrate the small wins. Like, you're going to have small wins and big wins. Sometimes those small wins, they live with you because they were so impactful because they changed the trajectory of something. So don't forget to celebrate small wins. Be confident and find confidence in your own self, right? Find happiness and joy in yourself because it radiates to others and it draws really positive energy towards you. And I think that whatever you do in life, you're going to face adversity, you're going to face obstacles. Don't give up because you never know if that moment that you give up, the next minute could have been your success, right? It's inches. You win by stacking up inches in life. And I think that sometimes people quit when they face adversity or they face multiple adversities. They don't realize they're just around the corner from success. So lean on your network, lean on your peers and your mentors when you're feeling like, man, I just feel like giving up, or I feel like I'm not getting there in the pace or the timeline that I wanted to. Everybody is on their own speed. Don't give up whatever you do. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? Entrepreneurship and anything you're going to do in your life, the hard path, you're on the right path when you're on that one. If it's an easy path, someone's already done it. You don't have as much of an opportunity to make impact. So find the hard path. Take every opportunity presented to you, even if you don't understand why it's presented at the time. I think everything happens in the universe for a reason. So pay attention to that and just really make sure that if an opportunity is provided, even if you're like, oh, this really doesn't make sense, but I think it's the right thing to do, go with your gut. Do it. You're going to learn from everything you do. Nothing is a loss as long as you gain a lesson.
That's amazing advice. And I really hope that everyone stuck around to the end to hear that because, it's very impactful and it's all very true. Amber, this has been an amazing episode. I've had such a fun time speaking with you and hearing your story. And just thank you from everyone at the RCAE. Thank you for all your time and your commitment to our success. We're glad to hear that you enjoy your time with us as well. So to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. Thank you again to Amber for coming out for this episode, and we will see you in the next one.
Thank you for listening. Rowan is proud to be an official knowledge hub of the International Council for Small Business. Our AACSB award-winning entrepreneurship programs challenge students to solve real problems in bold and impactful ways. If you're interested in supporting entrepreneurship at Rowan or want to get more involved by hiring an intern, speaking to a class, or being featured as a case study, contact us at rcie@rowan.edu.